Hi, I'm Andrew Armstrong and welcome to the back office teardown lab. We've got something here that I've been waiting a while for. When I say a while, literally a day. It came very quick. And all it is, something nice and simple, I tried to not get it too dirty, is a seal kit for a Land Rover air suspension system. And it cost me a whopping, an absolute whopping £14.99. So £15, and you can fix your air suspension in your Audi or BMW or Land Rover or whatever's using those sorts of air suspension-y bags. And looks like a general kit because it comes with these, which I don't believe are always necessary. 2 types of O-ring to seal them. And look at this one. This is a very odd looking O-ring, isn't it? So that must be for a real old model. And this is for the Wabco, by the way, the Wabco air suspension kit. And it obviously comes, look, even with the cable tie, so you can put everything nice back together. But the main thing that you're buying is this, and that is some sort of Teflon, Delrin, whatever. Feels like a Teflon or PTFE material, and that's your new piston ring. So that's it. That was a really super quick video. You can go away now, go back, eat your dinner, or if you're really bored, you can stay a bit longer and watch me fix it into this. What I'm going to do though is probably work away from the back office teardown desk a little bit, because I'm going to need all sorts of specialist tools and whatnot, but I'll show you what you're going to deal with. You just rip this out your car, you'll find it in your boot, probably where you keep your spare wheel or something like that. And it'll look something like that under the lid. And there's your pump, and what I'm going to do outside is basically undo these 3 bolts so I can get this Wabco unit out. But it does look so nice and pure and clean. Hard to tell though if it's been done before. I have to admit the screws that were holding it in did look a little bit odd, but then they might be odd. I'm not sure, I've never done one before. But I'm gonna take this unit out by taking out these 3 screws, and just to sort of let you know, I've had a quick look on how you're supposed to do it, and you'll have to end up undoing a lot of the pipe work. So I might just do that outside and bring it back. See you in a moment. Right, we got our Wabco out and it looks amazingly good nick. I mean, I don't know what it should look like, but I'm used to things on these sorts of cars just looking knackered. So there might be nothing wrong with this. It might have been a replacement or a recent service anyway. Who knows? Or they just always look good and I'm deluding myself. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm just loosening stuff that I think needs to come off, because you need to split these 2 parts and they're held onto this sort of metal frame on the back. So I'm just sort of having a look-see around at how they're held on. You can see there's 2 bolts there, 1 bolt there. I'm pretty confident you're going to have to get this frame off. What's it using? It's using 10mm, so that's not too much of a problem. So if you do that, I guess, looking at it, you're going to have to undo the pipe work and some wires. So there's a few bits and bobs necessary. These would probably make really good tyre inflators. You know how you got that little brrrr thing going on? Maybe this thing would make a cracking tyre inflator if you've got a spare one. Have you tried that? Anybody at home, any boys and girls, have you converted one of these into an awesome inflator of doom? Or do they simply require too much current? I mean, look at the connector on the end. It's not that bad. Look at the size of that. It's pretty beefy indeed. Looks like there's all sorts of extra wires there. I'm not sure what they do. They're obviously for maybe sensors, like a temperature sensor. I'm pretty sure there is a temp sensor, and maybe there's a sort of just pressure valves, pressure sensors, so it can read off how much pressure the system's managed to pump. Because I think if it doesn't pump up a certain amount in a certain time, that'll throw a computer error. So we've got it this far now. Just that bolt's loose. Not really sure what's holding it onto the frame at this point. But I'm going to undo this air intake pipe, and all these fittings, they're just sort of normal like bar fittings. You just push the little collets in and then slide it out. Oh, it's getting nearer. Something at the back and it's probably this air pipe and this wire and this. There's lots of things there, so let's cut those. That's why they give you the cable tie, of course, just to help you get in there. Still, it's not too bad. And I'm going to just do the same here. I'll try to show you the detail. That's the pipe there. I'm just going to push that collar in and then pull the pipe. Just come straight out. Tiny bit of grease on it. Interesting. There's another pipe here. There we go. So I'm kind of trying to leave them on the frame so that they all fall back where they sort of came off, but there's no guarantees that's what's going to happen though. And it looks like, that's this sensor we were talking about. That's definitely a temperature sensor, and it seems to be pretty well wedged in there, so be a bit careful. I'm going to be very ginger and just try ever so carefully to grab it. Oh, did you see that? It slipped and really dashed into the wires. I'm going to say that's probably not going to want to come right now, so let's just cut the cable tie so we can just work around that. I thought they would just fall out, to be honest with you, but no such joy. Right, and then just a final clip here, and this is a one of those spring clips that you need to try to get an edge under. Get under its edge. Curse you! This frame makes everything tedious. That is literally the last thing. We're almost there. When you look at this yourself, you'll see what it's doing. There we go. There's a clip right there on it. Just pop that off, and it will slide off. Try not to lose the spring clip though. I imagine they're probably quite a pain to get hold of spares of those. In fact, I'm going to clip it back on over the top. It's not going anywhere now. So that's about as good as we can get whilst keeping these main, this wire for the temperature thing and the other main wire in there. So it's going to be a little bit tedious. So I'm just going to move some of this pipe work just so it's rerouted away. So we can turn this, have a look. I prefer not to damage that. Right, we're there. So this head is obviously held on by this stud here, and there's another sort of star-shaped bit underneath there, so I'm going to pop that off. And I'm going to take our star-shaped bit and our extension bar, and that, for reference sake, is a T30. Let's check if I got that right. Yes, looks like a T30. Looks like a T30, fits like a T30, smells like victory. This is when we open it though and found it just pristine inside. It's like totally brand new compressor. Didn't need doing. If only. I'm hoping I'm not putting too much stress on that temperature probe. That's going to be a pain to replace. So that looks an awful lot like, sort of like the one in the kit. So I don't know if they intend you to replace that, but I don't think you really need to. This is using a different setup with this stud because it sits in the frame differently. There we go, that's come off nice and easy. So the first thing I'll do though is check this, because this is the bore, and have a look inside. It's pretty good actually. Just going to put a bit of, this is label remover, but parts cleaner's better. Some sort of solvent would be a bit better, but I think it's going to be okay for us. Doesn't feel like there's much needed to be clean in there. And yeah, I think that's an acceptable looking bore. I don't think, I can feel a bit of a lip. There's definitely wear, but it's not a huge amount, and we're not going to bother sort of testing that. And just while we're here, this is the O-ring we're going to replace. We're just going to eyeball that up. Yeah, there's a bit of dirt on it, so if it was replaced, you know, although the whole unit looks clean, there is some dust in there, which sort of implies that this hasn't been done. So I'm not wasting my time here. This hasn't been done before. So that is the actual piston, and I'm not going to dismantle that because again this is pop riveted. You can do that. You can take this panel off and you'll see the end of the little I guess conrod crank. It'll be the crank, and that's your piston there of the original sort of plasticky seal piston ring. And look, you noticed there's no gudgeon pin in it. This cylinder isn't free to move in the bore, so you're always going to get wear eventually in that. Great. And just be very careful on the top where I've just wiped. There's actually a little valve, little tin valve, so don't catch that under your rag and bend that, because that's going to be game over if you do. I'm going to give the mating faces sort of a clean while I'm here, and then slowly prising this off. Now you see where this sort of bolt is. If you look just underneath there, you'll see the piston ring actually locates to a little pin in there. See? Just make sure when you replace this that pin's going to be there. I mean, it's going to be really bloody hard to replace it wrong, but if you're struggling, that's what's the problem. So let's just lever this out. This is a hard old plastic, but there we go. Easy enough out. But it's sort of, you know, it's kind of, it does feel like it's an old thing. It's lost its way. I'm just going to have a look inside the seat, and it's looking pretty good, to be honest with you. If there's any sort of funk or dirt in there that you don't really want, now's a good opportunity to get in there and clean it. Maybe just rub the edge of a tissue around again, paying close attention to that little valvey lip. Don't want to disturb that. We're almost there, right the way round. Yeah, that's looking nice and shiny in there. Nice and shiny, no problem. Let's get the new bit. I can't do this all on my own. I'm no Superman. I just noticed there is a sort of rounded edge and a flat edge. Focus! I don't think there's any real difference between it. You see that's a square there and then that's a round. I think that's just because it's been milled out, so it probably doesn't matter if it goes one way or the other, but not that I know which way is which at this point. Let's get this new one in. So I'm just going to push it over the top, and I don't want to over sort of crank this thing, so I'm just going to do it just as quick and gentle as possible. And there, that's it. It's on, and look at that. That's got a heck of a lot more spring in it than the old one. So if you put the old one on top, you can see you've got a lip around it of at least at least a mil now in that springiness. So there's a bit more tension. This is definitely going to benefit. Whether it fixes the ultimate problem, who knows? But this is definitely going to benefit the pump. At least you can eliminate the pump out of the whole equation if you've got something going on with your air suspension. It's a bit hard to trace. So let's put that aside. Let's get this bad boy back again. Again, being super careful of that temperature sensor, which now I see it. It's super obvious how you get rid of it. Look, in the side of the cylinder head, it does appear to be a very bloody tight screw there, which really can only be the retainer for that. And it's so tight, I'm really regretting not doing it at the beginning while this was all bolted to something to lever against. But I'm going to do it now, just to, one, be sure that that is what it is, and two, reduce my opportunity for damaging that. Oh, it's loose, but it just doesn't want to come out yet. So this is designed to give it a really firm contact. Come on now, there we go, hurrah! And that's what that temperature thermocouple type device looks like. Phew! I messed up all the wiring now just to work around that. Still, no problem, we've got that unit in our hand. Compressor. Let's take off our seal. Let's not lose it. That's the old one there, that's the new one there. And it is sticky actually, it's sticky and filthy. Again, a little bit of cleaner if you've got it. Whatever cleaner you've got, it's probably going to be alright. Ideally a parts cleaner, but be aware, I kind of think if you're using a parts cleaner, I don't know if it's going to attack the rubbers and things, so always be a little bit cautious of what you're blatting in there. Just make sure you wipe it up when you're done. get that rag in there. Again, I don't think there's any need to hone it or anything. I think it's fine. Leave that alone. Just make sure there's no massive lips and things. If there is, it's going to probably eat that new thing pretty quickly. And that is the new O-ring. Pop that in, nice and clean. What I'm going to do though when I assemble this, I might write on the side of it the date, because that would be useful to somebody in the future, so they don't have to do all the guesswork as anybody looked at this. Let's pop that in now. So you might have to squeeze the sides of this as you're inserting it, and I'm not sure if I can quite show you. Maybe this way round, yes. So we're going to slide that stud right up there. If you want to, you could get rid of that stud, take it out and put it in afterwards. But oh, that's nice. Yeah, it must be a tapered bore. It just drops straight in. You didn't have to compress the piston rings too much at all. Just goes to show you how much, how critical it is to get that nice tight seal, because there's that much slack in there. Let's wang this on. So you can see that the other bolts in the set were to replace these if you needed replacing, but I think these are fine on ours. I'm not sure that the conditions, maybe you, depending on certain vehicles, how this is mounted. Now before you crank that up fully, of course, make sure you get an even pressure across both of them. So I'm going to do one and then the other. Don't just crank one down and then do the other, that's not going to be good. You want that to be an even force across. Yeah, so in some vehicles though, these must be mounted in places probably where they're affected by weather or water ingress and things like that, and ruin those. So I guess when you are dismantling those, your chance of ruining them are quite high, so hence the kit's giving you some spares on that. Right, we're ready to go now. Crank it! Contact. Good, that's real good. I think the procedure now is just going to be mounted into the frame though. I'm not going to try to reroute all of the cables and connectors and everything on it and then fit it into the frame. So replacing it is not quite the opposite. But for you it might be, because you're going to know how to take that thermocouple out right away and you won't have the issue. So we had one nylock on here. Get it cranked on. So that was quick actually. I mean, I know I'm recording this live. This is like a live video and it's probably about a quarter of an hour it's saying on the screen or so. And that's with me faffing around. So if you're doing it, I reckon this is a 10-minute job. So if you take it to a dealer or a steeler, the main steeler, see what they're offering, how much they're going to charge you. They won't do this, by the way. They'll probably just charge you, try to charge you like $2,000 for a whole replacement unit. But yeah, see what the steelers want, and then compare it to this £15 10-minute fix that could just save you bacon and save you a lot of money. Is that connector get atable? Oh, almost a gotcha there. I think it's alright, but that connector could be tricky. I'm going to put that in now before I tighten those bolts down. I'm going to really wish I did a better job of this clip. Get off. Ah, there we go. The clip has decided to go south for the winter. But fortunately, I do have my archery forceps here. There we go. Always a useful tool, by the way. Get a set of cheap Poundland archery forceps, as used by your local cut and shut hospital. Yeah, just making sure that thing is on all the way, and then just going to push that clip down. Locked. Yes, it is locked in. Let's get those bolts tightened up again now. So at least you got now a good idea of the construction of this. There's definitely some sort of air block sensor thing here, which is doing something. It's definitely doing something. It has a filter block attached. I'll show you what the filter block looks like. Yeah. Oh. And I've just noticed that it is possible to get in there and tighten that thermocouple back in. that would have been a bit of a pain as well if we couldn't get to that. It's nice. It's almost like they'd worked it out that way, but I'm pretty sure they didn't. It's just luck. So that, by the way, is what I mean by the sort of filter block. It's the same sort of material as this. If you look at sort of air systems and oil systems, they seem to have that sort of weird brassy bead action going on. I don't really know much about it, but it's always the same sort of stuff. So I'm going to pop that temperature sensor back in there, and I'm going to route its cable back around through this doodad here. I'm just going to crank it on. Crank it on! Crank it on, crank it up. Let's see what happens when we fire it up. Fire it up. Yeah. Now, although this was super firm, right? I would advise, see that movement there? Just keep twisting it quarter turn till that is nipped up, yeah? And then maybe just a tiny bit more. And that's it. Don't... Because I guarantee you're going to screw that up big time. So we've got one pipe here. This little bitty pipe. Let's get that in there. And you see there's a white mark. Make sure they're pushed home till that white mark is pretty much as gone as possible. I think it can go a bit further, can it? No, maybe you can still see the white mark. That's fine. I was under the impression you could do it so that you can't see it. Let's work out the routing for this big pipe. I think it's underneath. Over the gums. Watch out, stomach. Here it comes. Just double check that it definitely can't go on that way. This is the only way it's ever going on. Just try and make sure it doesn't foul anything. Again, right down to the white mark. I think that's it in there. All the way to the white mark. Boosh. Nice job. That's it. And then you've got this little wee willy winky. Where was he connected? In there. In there indeed. So that's that. That's all the pipes in. Just putting the wires back where they appeared to come from. Now the tricky part is we had the cable ties that we cut. We cut 2 of them. I don't have the benefit of knowing where I cut them without reversing the video and having a watch, but it gives you 4 of these. So I'm just going to grab 4 of them and pop them where I think it would benefit. So I mean, we do have a floppy cable here, for example. I mean, it seems a legit place. I've got loads of cable ties, so I'm not bothered about wasting them. So I'm just going to put one there because I think that's a better job, even if they weren't required. And then somebody in the future will open this up to service it and go, "Ooh, whoever did this did a lovely job at that. They did it canny like." And we just have all of these 3 things, these 3 wires going on, and I think I would definitely put something between these 2 just so they're offering some strain relief. I believe that there was actually another cable tie to the chassis, so we're going to do one more to the chassis frame. For that we'll just flip this over, and yes, I might need, I don't know, maybe I imagine that, or I think it just maybe had longer. There we go, that's fine. Just try to rotate that around. I've got this block on the top. Try to rotate the block around because it's going to be alright, but it might rub on something you don't really want it to rub on. There we go, out the way. Beautiful, beauty mate. I think, apart from maybe this airline, which may benefit from some sort of being snagged up here, across here, I'll do it here, why not? I think we're done. And there's enough compliancy here that you can flex it out the way on installation. So that's it. That's how you fit your kit for your Wabco air suspension pump, and didn't take a few minutes. Done. I think that's going to be a proper job. I'm going to go chuck that in the vehicle, and then we'll try something else. Hope that's been of some use to you. Please like, share, subscribe, and as ever, thank you for watching.